Thanks. Okay, welcome back, folks. This is House Human Services on Thursday afternoon. Can't believe the week is flying by. So this afternoon, we are switching gears a little bit from the budget adjustment testimony we were taking this morning, and we are going to begin review of a report that was due to us and that will have budget implications in the FY27 budget. And so this enables us to have some background. It's also one of the priorities that Representative Donahue and Steady included in their committee report and our recommendations to the budget, to the Appropriations Committee last year. So, which is one of the reasons why we're getting this report. We're going to hear from the folks at the Vermont Network today. We're also going to hear from the Department for Children and Families and the judiciary tomorrow. We are going to hear today from people with lived experience, and because of the sensitivity of the topic and the risk for harm for people, we will be having anonymous testimony from one of the witnesses. So please be understanding and respectful of that, okay, as we enter into this. I think we're going to welcome Charlie to the table first. And I do want to officially welcome back Katerina. For people who weren't here a couple of years ago, Katerina was with the Department for Children and Families. She was a frequent visitor to our committee, and in between times, she was our recreation director in the town of Waterbury, which she did a fantastic job of. And now she's moved on to do policy work with the network. So welcome back, Katerina.
Thank you. A celebrity in this building. We're very lucky to have her. I'm Charlie Glisserman. I'm the policy director at the Vermont Network Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. In addition to Katerina, I'm also joined by my colleague, Sarah Robinson, who's the co-executive director of the Vermont Network, and has extensive experience in the funding and programmatic side of supervised visitation. We are so grateful for the opportunity to speak with the committee today about supervised visitation in Vermont of last year. So for some background, supervised visitation provides a safe, structured setting where a parent can have monitored visits with their child. Situations, this issue. Trained staff ensure that visits occur in a safe, supportive, and trauma-informed environment. And many programs also offer supervised custodial of one parent to another safely without exposing the child or a non-abusive parent to risk. At their core, supervised visitation services are designed to serve children and foster safe relationships between them and their parents. And each visit is centered on the child's needs, sense of safety, and capacity for connection. These services also play a critical role in supporting the safety of a non-abusive parent. Research consistently shows that abuse frequently escalates after separation. Custody or visitation arrangements often necessitate ongoing contact with an abusive partner, and it creates safety risks and disrupts a survivor's healing. Supervised visitation provides a safe alternative, and it allows a non-custodial parent to maintain and build a healthy relationship with their child in a structured and supportive environment. So right now in Vermont, here's the status of supervised visitation. Programs have been chronically underfunded for more than 15 years, which has led to program closures and significant gaps in services. Currently, each program receives a very small grant from DCF, and some also receive supplemental funding from the Center for Crime Victim Services. Together, these grants amount to approximately $16,000 to $40,000 per year per program, which is far below what's needed to sustain safe and reliable services. Today, we have 6 independent programs who are providing supervised visitation in Vermont, and this leaves 5 of Vermont's counties without a local program. So those counties are Lamoille, Orange, Washington, Windsor, and Rutland. So when you think about this state, it creates this hole in the center of it, where there is really a desert where families have limited access to these essential services. As a result, families often have to travel long distances for supervised visitation. They have to forgo visits. And often they rely on untrained family members or friends to supervise their contact instead of a trained professional. And these arrangements pose many safety risks. Witnesses later in this hearing will share how these barriers, including being ordered by the court or DCF to rely on informal supervision arrangements, can harm Vermont families. Even in counties with programs, there are long wait lists, sometimes several months to even years, and it makes it very difficult for families to comply with court and DCF orders for supervised visits. The Vermont Network provides statewide support to supervised visitation programs. That looks like technical assistance and training, as well as opportunities for collaboration and communication among providers. And it also has established practice standards to ensure consistent high-quality services across the state. So last year, lawmakers, including this committee, asked the Commissioner of DCF and the Chief Superior Judge to develop a proposal for sustainably funding a statewide system of supervised visitation programs. And that report was produced in consultation with the Center for Crime Victim Services, Supervised Visitation Programs, and us, the Vermont Network. And we are so grateful to the legislature, DCF, and the judiciary for giving this issue the time and attention it deserves. The report outlines the significant challenges facing supervised visitation programs and the conditions that led to them. It clearly identifies insufficient funding as the primary barrier to consistent services statewide. So this report calls for sustainable funding for statewide coordination to ensure that programs operate with standards, high-quality services. It also recommends sustainable funding for supervised visitation programs themselves to meet the statewide demand for these services. This includes resources to sustain coverage of services statewide, attract, retain, and train qualified staff, as well as provide an appropriate space, physical space, for visits and exchanges. The report also recognizes the need for a more detailed cost analysis. And the Vermont Network has conducted some preliminary assessments of programs' funding needs and would welcome the opportunity to work with DCF and the judiciary. Bless you. And we would be happy to return to the committee with a detailed cost estimate in the coming weeks. With supervised visitation services truly at a breaking point, this work feels very timely. And it is critical that additional funding become available on July 1 of this year to prevent further program closures and ensure that Vermont families can access these essential services. I greatly appreciate your time and early consideration of this report. It's a real privilege today to be followed by two survivors who can speak firsthand to the importance of accessible supervised visitation for families in Vermont. But before that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'm curious about what the network's experience has been with the judicial system you made reference to the judiciary ordering visitations, honestly, kind of like really despite knowing that there's a risk to people involved, in one way or another. Have you seen examples where those orders like specifically rely on some sort of informal system? I mean, is that in the order, or is that just sort of an expectation, like the order is made to have visitation, and if there's no supervised visitation program in your region, then you just have to figure it out?
I'm sure that Judge Zone can speak in more detail to this tomorrow. It's my understanding that in court orders for supervised visitation, it does often define a person who is acting as a supervisor. I know Representative Donahue acted in that role.
Wasn't asked beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Just the order was, she will be the person who will supervise the visits.
Yeah. Wow.
And, that is part of why having statewide coverage of supervised visitation programs is so important. so that people who are acting as those supervisors are trained to provide those services, the physical space is appropriate for it. Even something like that you wouldn't necessarily think of, like a lot of our programs have 2 entrances and 2 driveways, so that there doesn't need to be any direct exchange between, a non-abusive parent and their former partner. And so, a private residence doesn't necessarily have those considerations in mind. We really feel like supervised visitation is critical to provide safety, and also to allow non-custodial parents to build and maintain relationships with their children.
So in the counties where we have supervised visitation programs right now, albeit, significantly underfunded ones, how does that occur? I mean, is it something that is contained in the court order that it has to be a supervised visitation, and they identify the entity that is providing the supervision, much as they did with Representative Donahue? Although, I'm trying to figure out, can it also be a voluntary process? So, I can see that the court orders it, but in certain cases, but is there also room or space for the parties to agree voluntarily to utilize those services?
Exactly. So I can follow up with more detailed numbers, but the last ones that I saw were about 80 to 85% of people who participate in supervised visitation services are directed to either by the court or DCF as part of a case plan. But there are some people who do voluntarily attend supervised visits because it is an arrangement that a family perhaps worked out privately, or is part of a safety plan that a survivor perhaps worked out with a member program of ours.
We have a couple questions, Representative Donahue and Garofano.
I think you mentioned in the report that the programs that do exist often have backlogs.
Yes.
Do you know, I don't think it mentioned that, how long those can be? Like, in other words, how long could a parent not be able to see their child because there was a backlog for access to the required supervised visit?
Yeah, absolutely. It varies by county, and it also varies by, the time. So for instance, there was a really significant backlog following the COVID pandemic. You will hear from a survivor later in this hearing who was on a wait list for years. And so that's the reality of the crisis that we're facing. Because there are so many counties that don't have a local program, people are forced to go outside of their county, which makes the programs that are currently operating far above their capacity.
Senator Garofano.
This might be a question for Judge Zone, but in case you know, does the court order specify an amount of time? And then is the goal to decrease the supervision because is any work being done to the need for the supervised visit?
It's my understanding that the order does often include a frequency and also a period of time. So say 4 hours every other Friday. But Judge Zone can speak more to those details and any diversity across the state and how those orders are done. The goals of supervised visitation can be really different depending on the family. That's part of why the standards that we have developed with programs at the Vermont Network are really critical, because it does, for example, have a standardized intake process where some of those goals are discussed. There are various reasons why a family might be referred to a supervised visitation program. In some cases, it might be because there was abuse in the home. In some cases, it might be because there was an abuse towards the child, or there might be some situations where there are concerns about child safety risks, but there wasn't abuse present. So for example, if a parent is experiencing active substance use disorder. And so the goals for supervised visitation are just really dependent on the family and the child and what they need.
Go ahead, Representative Bishop.
This is not an area that I have familiarity with, so I'm a little unclear and hoping you can help me. When it talks about the network of programs, who's providing those programs? Who is part of that network? Are they named organizations that we may recognize who fulfill other functions in the community? And then specifically looking at the report, and maybe this is tied into the answer to that question. When I look at Chittenden County, for example, they have one 20-hour-a-week employee and almost no backlog. That just seems odd or unexpected that the largest county in the state
Yeah.
operates with a thinner staff than others. So it makes me think that there's somehow others, maybe outside of the formal network, that are providing services.
Absolutely. So, there are a variety of structures for these programs. All of the ones that are kind of noted in this report have supervised visitation programs like adjoined with a nonprofit. Many of them are adjoined with a member program of the Vermont Network, Voices Against Violence, Umbrella in the Northeast Kingdom. So those are kind of two examples. So these programs are often, acting in other ways in their community. The reality is that their nonprofit budgets outside of their supervised visitation program are often what's propping up their ability to provide supervised visitation services, because it's a real value for the organization and they want to make sure that they can continue providing services. As far as the kind of wait lists and the differences between programs, it really depends. I've heard from survivors who have been on very extended wait lists in Chittenden County. I've also heard from survivors who have traveled to Franklin County to get access to supervised visitation services.
We have questions for this witness? You spoke to the standards that the network has developed. Can you just, I guess, give us examples of what those contain, maybe, and then maybe send us a link to them? That would be great.
Absolutely. So, some examples of what is included in the standards, that there needs to be training on how to respond to safety risks. There should be a client intake process, that programs are providing services that their employees are adequately trained to provide.
But I guess my question is, do you provide sort of elements of so that training, for instance, are elements of like how to stay safe, or what happens when an incident occurs, and what's the first things that you do, I'm just wondering to what extent the network is involved in sort of overseeing the provision of these services, at the sort of statewide level.
Yes, exactly. So we have a staff member at the Vermont Network, and a portion of their role is providing support to supervised visitation programs across the state. And so that looks like a lot of different things. That looks like bringing providers together for recurring meetings, providing training and technical assistance. So, managing safety risks appropriately was something that we heard very consistently from programs. And that's something where we try to meet their needs and support them as best as they can in preparing for those situations that staff, certainly encounter in their programs. And I would be happy to, follow up with more detail about what those standards really look like in action and some examples of those technical assistance opportunities.
Great, thank you. Representative Noyes.
Thank you. I've been hearing about this for 10 years since I've been here, and I'm disappointed we haven't figured it out, but I also.
We're going to this year.
Good, I hope so. I know that there's money from the feds in this Family First money around youth who are involved with courts to provide for their legal representation that I don't think Vermont has the ability to draw down through a series of reasons. But it would be good to hear from the department as if this could possibly use to help offset some of the funding for supervised visitation. I'm not sure, but perhaps Office of Child Advocate has brought this to my attention a couple of times, these resources, and maybe it's something we can explore as a way to, it's more around the representation of youth in the court system. And I don't know if this could possibly be a funding source. So I'm just throwing that out there, and I do hope we figure this out.
Thank you. Yeah, I
It is
appreciate.
important. And thank you for your work.
Of course. Thank you. I appreciate the collective solution making. I think where we're coming from is that, if there is a sustainable, reliable funding source that can support these programs and providing the services Vermont families deserve, we are all for it.
So I guess I'm a little, and I'll speak to the department about this, but now since the network was a partner, I'm a little disappointed in the report, honestly, because it didn't really do what we asked it to do, which was to develop a funding proposal with numbers. And,
I think the general fund should cover it.
right. And we should do a detailed analysis. Okay, well, that's why we gave you a year to do that, or 9 months. So maybe you could describe the process that was used to develop this report a little bit from your perspective.
Absolutely. I'm sure that the department, has much more to add from, our perspective. We stayed in very close communication with the Department of Children and Families in the creation of this report. We organized multiple focus groups of our member programs at the Vermont Network who provide services to survivors, both programs that provide supervised visitation services and also programs that don't have supervised visitation services in their county and what that looks like. We also collected some financial information from the programs in our network that provided supervised visitation and an assessment of what kind of staffing levels they would need for sustainable funding. And so we would be more than happy to work with DCF and the judiciary and come back to the committee in the coming weeks with, a more detailed cost estimate. And we absolutely agree that is a timely need and something that we are happy to do.
Okay, so if you've already done all that, why wasn't it included?
I'll
ask a different question. Was that information provided to DCF?
We did not provide an identified level of a funding need to DCF. We did some cost analysis and we feel like we're quite close and are happy to provide that to the committee.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you, Charlie. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next we are going to be hearing from two individuals with lived experience. And as I mentioned earlier, but not everybody was in the room at the time, we are going to be paying particular attention to the safety of individuals. And so we will be hearing anonymous testimony from one individual, and the other person has agreed to be on with us. So welcome to both of you. And Katie, I think we'll call on you first since we can see your name, and we will welcome to the committee and to sharing your story. And I want both of you to know that information that you share is really important to our understanding of the issue. And we understand also that it's you're being vulnerable in doing that, and we appreciate that very much.
Good afternoon. As you know, my name is Katie McKenzie. I live in Washington County, and I am a survivor of domestic violence. I am also a mother of 3. I have 3 daughters. One of the most important things that I try to teach my children is that safety matters, not just for us, but also for others. That's why I'm here today, to support the statewide well-funded system of supervised visitation programs that I'm hoping you guys are gonna come up with. For families like mine, this is about safety, not theory. Washington County has little to no access to supervised visitation services, and I've seen personally what that lack looks like, not just in my own family, but in others around me as well. After I left the father of my children, I worried about my children's safety during visits. He had been abusive in our relationship and had a history of substance use. During an earlier period when he was in active substance use, I myself had to step in and supervise visits because there were no programs available in our area. This was very stressful and isolating, and it should not be the only option that families have. I've also been asked to supervise visits for another family member when no program was available. I was not trained for that role. I had no guidance, no clear safety framework. There were moments when I didn't know how to intervene safely, and no one should have to be in that situation. I've seen how quickly visits can become unsafe without professional supervision. It's terrifying, and children deserve better than that. Vermont just desperately needs more supervised visitation programs, both in Washington County and across the state, honestly. Thank you for listening and hearing my story.
Thank you, Katie. So I want to make sure that I understood what you just said. So you were asked, as the person who was the person directly impacted by the violence in the relationship that you had with your children's father. You were asked to step in and supervise their visits. So you were exposing yourself to protect your children. I understand that, but you needed to expose yourself to further trauma in order to protect your children.
So this was an incident between court orders. I felt it was important for my children to continue to have a relationship with their father, and there was no access that I had as an uncourt ordered person or individual or family or whatever you want to call it, to obtain supervised visitations. So I had to be the one to do that.
And even if it were ordered, there isn't a program in Washington County, correct?
Correct.
It sounds like you have been a support to other families who have experienced domestic violence. And do you, from your personal experience, do you see others, yourself and others around you, having interruptions in parental relationships because of the lack of supervised visitation in your area?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Unfortunately, more often than is even remotely, acceptable.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Are there other questions here for Katie? Katie, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story, and thanks for the help that you're providing to other people too.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All righty. Okay, next we're going to hear from our anonymous witness, and we welcome you and want this to be a safe space for you, and respect your ability to contribute in any way that feels comfortable to you.
Good afternoon, Chair Wood and members of the House Human Services Committee. I appreciate the opportunity to share my story as a survivor of domestic violence who relied on supervised visitation services and watched them change my daughter's life. I'm testifying anonymously today to protect my safety. When I filed for divorce, my daughter was 3. My ex-husband took our house, car, all the money in our bank accounts, and threatened and tried to take my daughter away from me. I was able to maintain custody of our daughter, and the court ordered visits with my ex-husband every other Saturday that were to be supervised by my mother at her home, with myself as a backup supervisor if she wasn't available. This informal arrangement was unsafe for my mother, myself, and my daughter. The breaking point came when my ex-husband arrived angry for a visit, subsequently cornering and shouting at my mother. My daughter, still very young at the time, passed a note asking if she needed to call the police. And after that, the visits had to stop. were placed on a waiting list for a slot at a supervised visitation program, and we stayed on that waiting list for years. When we finally got a slot at All About Kids in Franklin County, the difference was like night and day. The staff at All About Kids were and are incredible. They expertly facilitated exchanges and supervised visits between my daughter and her father. They had protocols in place which allowed me to drop off my daughter safely. After years of dreading visits with her father, my daughter slowly built a relationship with him. The facilitator empowered her, allowing her to gradually extend her visits at her own pace. My daughter has had visits with her father at All About Kids for 4 years, and those were the best years of their relationship. Having trained staff coordinate visits instead of me kept me safe. It prevented my ex-husband from using our daughter to regain control over me. For the first time in years, I was able to move forward with my life instead of living in limbo. Supervised visitation was transformative for my family. Access to this essential service should not depend on your zip code or how long you've been on a wait list. Extended family members like my mother should not be in the position of having to supervise contact. High quality, sustainably funded supervised visitation programs must be available to all Vermonters like me who need them. Thank you for your attention to this important issue and taking the time to listen to my story.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that and for being here today, especially understanding for both you and Katie how difficult it is to share personal information with a group of strangers, especially things that are so sensitive and emotional. So it's just with a very heartfelt thanks that we appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for this witness?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I ask you one question about, did you have a question, Representative Steady?
Well, I was just gonna say what county? I might have missed it.
No, not this one.
The
I'm
first
sorry.
one was Washington County, the
remember.
second one received services in Franklin County, but I'm not.
Because the reason I asked is because we know this was our.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
And, there wasn't anything, so I didn't know. I was just curious, this organization she talked about, if they are located, maybe they could pop up somewhere, I don't know.
Franklin County, yes.
Okay,
Well, that would be a question, we should ask the network.
yeah,
So, if there are, in the 27, this is sort of background information for 27. So if there were an appropriation in FY 27 to establish these services in all 14, for all 14 counties and to, do a bit of bolstering to the existing, do you know who you would be reaching out to do that? Are there providers willing or able, as Representative Steady was just referencing?
Great question.
All about kids.
For the record, Sarah Robinson from the Vermont Network. So yes, absolutely. And there are nonprofit organizations that have in the past expressed interest in actually serving in this capacity. But as you can imagine, for a nonprofit to say yes for $16,000 a year, they're just not able to make, the math doesn't match.
Right.
And so we've already had conversations with many organizations in those regions that are not currently served. And we do believe that there are organizations that will step into this role, be they parent-child centers, member organizations of the Vermont Network. For example, Winston Prouty down in Windham County serves in this role. So we do believe that organizations will step forward, but they do need the resources to be able to say yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I think because it's important for sort of efficiency and to being able to do this at an affordable cost. The connection with an existing nonprofit organization that already serves families would seem to be logical and key. in order for us to, look at any kind of, I hesitate to really call it expansion because it's just,
No.
it's a base, really. It's a base, a basic, establishment. Yeah. Okay, thank you. That's helpful. And, I would encourage you to, be, sharpening your pencils, as we look to FY 20. Because we will need obviously more detailed information, and I'm sure Representative Steady and Representative Donahue will be in touch about that. Okay, are there any other questions for these witnesses with regard to this report and the current system? Again, we're going to be hearing from the department tomorrow, and Judge Zone, who's just recently had surgery, is going to join us via Zoom. So we will be hearing from him as well. Yeah, go ahead. Ann.
Not a question, but just we have a little bit of extra time. I'd like to testify from here, but just to give a little bit more fill in on the circumstance I was involved in, which Washington County, of course, there is no service. And this involved a father who was under investigation for abuse, and there was also a divorce that was underway. And the court ordered supervised visitation, and I wasn't present, but it was to be by me because I had taken this family, the mother of children, into my home. And so they said, well, the person who's at that home can do the supervision then. I was not given any information. I was actually wondering, does that mean I need to be in the house, or does it mean I need to be in the same room? I don't even know. But at any rate, he was very offended at being under this order, and within a few weeks was able to convince the court to end the supervised visitation. The court wasn't aware of the criminal investigation on the abuse that was going on because we were told, don't let him find out because that could impair the ability to conduct the criminal investigation. So he was allowed visitation, and the second or third week when the children who were 7 and 8 returned, the 7-year-old had a bruise on his arm, which I think is described as a thumbprint bruise. You can tell that it's from somebody grabbing a child tightly. But the child, who was 7, would not acknowledge that came from his father doing anything, which is not surprising. But I went, this guy's, in his 40s and, muscular enough and all, but I went and really went in his face and said, if he comes back with a bruise again from a visit, I am calling DCF. I didn't right off the bat because I knew they wouldn't necessarily be able to even make a case because the child was denied. The outcome of that is that he went back to court and he got an order of protection against me because he was scared of me, as described in the order of protection. I was a frightening person who intimidated him. And as a result, there was an order of protection that I was not permitted to be present in my own home when he came to pick up his children for this visit. So that's how these things can evolve. It was sort of a really interesting experience to learn about aspects of the system.
It sounds like a challenging situation for sure. So, and I will have to say, I don't think I've ever physically felt threatened by you, Ann, but I can tell you that your intellect does threaten me.
He said he was having to back away and the stairs were behind him and he might have fallen down the stairs and, all this high drama.
But it does.
That was not actually,
it's a real
I was
life
actually
example.
never served with the order, so it actually never was enforceable, it didn't actually happen. But the
It was in
the
the
document was shared with me by the mom, and there it was, the description of his fear and the order and all that.
You can see how things can go sideways very quickly in situations like this. And, particularly when there's been violence involved in the imposition of threats and, there's children involved. It gets very complicated very quickly. So Okay, all right, folks, I think that will wrap us up on that for that topic for today. We'll be back at that again tomorrow, and if you haven't read the report, again, I encourage you to read the report. It's not very long. Because we'll be having DCF here and they're the actual authors of the report, so it will enable you to be informed about asking questions, okay? Okay. Thank you all for being here, and we appreciate the network's work in working with families and the department and the courts to deliver the report, such as it is. It's helpful information on the background and on what the current staffing situation is at existing programs. So thank you. Okay, folks, let's, the next little bit of time we're going to take to talk about budget adjustment and our recommendations around budget adjustment. So we heard from a number of people this morning. It's kind of a marathon session. I'm just gonna kind of like start at the top and work our way down, because the top ones are the easier ones. I think will be the easier ones for us. So we heard from the information about the residential care, the tier 1 facilities, and the essentially not following legislative intent. And as I described this morning, I think this, could be considered a technical amendment. It still does cost money, but the intent was not to decrease rates for existing providers. And as Dan so eloquently pointed out, what we're paying right now to those providers to care for human beings is less than people pay for their dogs to be boarded when they go away for a vacation. That was a good visual in my head, Dan.
That's why I asked the question a couple of times, like, how much is it per day?
Yeah. Yeah. So what are folks' thoughts? I mean, that essentially is $1,071,550 for the residential care to actually just be restored to what it was that they were supposed to have. That does not provide them an increase. I just want to be clear about that.
Correct.
That doesn't provide them an increase. That just restores them to what they were supposed to have at the beginning of the fiscal year. Yeah, go ahead.
For some clarification, so this is Medicaid reimbursable expenditures.
Yes.
So the obligation of state dollars would be about 45%.
Roughly 47% of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 1 million and change,
1,700,000.
$1,071,550.
Just technically speaking.
I get my calculator.
Yeah, no. Are we making a recommendation to appropriations that's going to be 1,071,000, or is it going to be that 40
No, we make the recommendation for the full amount.
for the full amount?
Yeah.
Using both GC and.
They know, yeah.
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 With language, kind of talking about where this number came from. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So can I, let's just discussion. Ann, you started to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I strongly support asking for money to be added in budget adjustment where it was intended to be in the budget. And I don't know if it's helpful. I kind of just as we listened, divided in my mind 3 categories of what the asks were. I don't know if you want to go on both. So my categories were, the first one was where people were short shifted from our intended budget allocation. And there were 3 of those in my mind in terms of what was expected, and that those should clearly be followed through. The second category where they have a shortfall because of a change in circumstances, some new money, but needed to meet the unprojected things because of a change in things that happened. And that was the recovery centers, the legal aid in terms of the healthcare needs because of changes in federal, significant changes in health access. Oh, no, that's the two, recovery and legal aid. And then the others were where I heard the ask is really assisting with needs that are, you know, very important and persuasive. But they were known when we did the budget. And, you know, in some cases, we even fought for more money and they didn't get it. And that adjustment isn't really the place for doing that. And we need to hear that again and listen to it for the new budget, but it doesn't qualify in my mind as what budget adjustment is meant to be. And knowing that anything we spend, we add in budget adjustment is money that in a sense gets lost for next year's budget, that I wouldn't feel supportive. And that those ones were the 211, which is like a new position, the end homelessness. I think that I got them all in one of those three. I might have forgotten getting one, but so that was kind of how I thought it through.
I think recovery centers fall into there myself.
Into the last one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have it kind of like, you know.
The reason that I
yeah.
say that is because we did consider their full ask.
Right.
And they were allocated 800,000.
But they did say, and the reason it was like new circumstances in part, is lost federal funding was part of why they're short now. So that was the reason. It was sort of a between the two in my mind. But yeah, I also felt that way in part hearing it. So it's sort of.
What was the third one you had on the shortchanged? In other words, the legislative intent.
I thought that the HOP flexible funding where we did not think money was going to be taken from them in what we appropriated for the others. So, and
the AAAs, I'm assuming falls into that category, the 2% for choices.
The 2%, those are the three things, the 2%, the community care homes, and the HOP flexibles.
Yeah, the HOP one seems like there was just a real omission in the presentation by the department on how they intended to spend money.
Yeah, I mean, that was right. It was not consistent with what our intent would have been. I mean, we never discussed, and should this be balanced by taking money away from this?
It almost seems like it falls into that category of, you said that Dale let us know the ERC tier 1 changed because they kind of figured that was not what we intended. That HOP feels like the same sort of situation.
Except for the department didn't let us know about that.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
That's extra.
They figured. Dale at least did let us know that this isn't probably exactly what you were expecting, but this is what's going to happen. I mean, that was the essence of the conversation I had with Commissioner Bowen. We can go, if you go to the, if you're interested to see how all of the HOP funds were spent, if you look at the report submitted to our department, our division, what is this? Our committee? The report submitted to our committee, the December report has a more accurate, all the previous links had linked back to last year's, when I say last year's, FY25's allocations. And I said, could you please update this link? You keep linking the wrong report. So you can get a sense of where the money went in all those places. But so, well, you know, I think that's sort of a helpful way to think about things. And yeah, go ahead.
So I just want to put this on the record. I informally talked to you about it. I don't have any problem with the HOP funding and that program. I feel like it's very worthwhile and does a lot of good and prevents a lot of, down the line. But my biggest problem is that there's been no effort in consolidating, managing those, like 14 organizations across the state are receiving this money. And like, given what we went through last year and all the discussions we had on H91, I would hope either the administration or the community partners would think about like consolidating and looking for efficiencies, because there are and that's more money that could go in the pocket of the people that need the funds and need, direct support and concrete support. So that I just feel like it's a real missed opportunity, and like we shouldn't be the ones in this room constantly thinking about that. I would want the administration and the community partners to be really thinking about how can they achieve efficiencies and thinking about how do they consolidate services in order to get more money in the pockets of actual individuals and cut down the administrative costs, because the costs that are going to the organizations and the state government to administer all these grants, there is a dollar value next to that.
So, yeah, I just want to remind people, so just because we're in committee discussion, so you don't need to raise your hand or be recognized as long as, unless things get out of hand and 5 people try to talk at the same time, then I'll intervene. But, so this is just discussion. So just feel free to follow
explain
on.
some of how this money is distributed and some of the history on how that money has been distributed. It used to be with OEO, I believe, or CVOEO, who was like distributing it out, and it took a long time to process. So how this money flows currently is, each of those, you heard it went to these different organizations. Strategically, those are the organizations like our local housing continuum. So those are the groups who get together, they meet, they review these cases, they check to make sure, if we spend these funds, is this a sustainable situation? Are we spending these funds wisely? And then that person, that organization is then local to quickly cut these checks, because these are time sensitive issues. If you don't get the money to the landlord, the security deposit, those moving costs, you can lose the apartment. Or if you don't get that back rent to the landlord, they may proceed with the eviction. So it used to be central, and now they've moved the distribution to each community because it allows them to have that centralized decision making, ensure that it's kind of all local. So that's kind of how it's developed.
But I have a question about that then. Okay, so we have 5 community action agencies. They cover all 14 counties of the state. Those other 9 providers are what I would consider, what I would wonder about, I guess I should say, is overlap.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm referring to, what I'm coming back to what you said, Ray, is that, so we have 5 that cover the whole state, and then we have 9 more where we're dividing up the pot of money into further smaller pots because those organizations have requested it and maybe historically have gotten it. I don't know.
It's assigned to us, it's a COC. Each one represents a local COC. And so it's not the organization, it's like people coming together, they're making it's the housing review team, so that you do an application. And then all the people, when they talk about, at my local COC, we heard from Danielle Wallace, who talked about she's part of that.
Right.
So they're all coming together and making this decision whether to fund.
So isn't the community action involved in those COCs?
Yes, but it's done around like the lead agencies and that. And so it was built out on the current system, which is that. So as we look at the system, but it's not just like this agency and that agency.
No, I understand
it's
that.
done, and it's based on like a formula, of like what their master lease looks like, maybe the shelter capacity, maybe their master lease is shorter, but they're housing a lot of people, so there is a lot of careful thought put into this.
And it covers the whole state, I'm presuming.
And it's not like the actual administration of it I'm not sure how much they actually get or how much of it is actually being used for administration. It's just that the funds are put down at the local level because those are the experts in their community. Those are the ones making decisions about their community. And that's just that's kind of the history of how it's evolved feel free to correct me if I haven't been as involved in the local level of my COC.
Yeah, no, I just mean we're not.
Oh,
taking
yeah,
it
we're
as-
not taking testimony.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yes, in my role, I'm more of a statewide role, so I'm not in the local COCs as much. But yeah, so that's kind of how it's evolved, and it evolved that way to be more efficient, to be part of these groups that are already meeting regularly, so that folks, I mean, people were waiting like 3 months, 2 months, it was too much for one organization to handle at the time.
I can see that based on the data that people are saying that the volume would be significant, for one organization. I just was thinking like, if we have a group of organizations that cover the whole state, then I'm not really sure why we need additional. And I understand you're saying it's the local housing coalitions, or
Yeah, I mean, they sometimes they
call
have their
themselves
own
different
name.
things, I know.
It's all built within the
They call
COC,
themselves the same thing.
the HUD COC structure, which we are required, at least at this point in time, to have. And a lot of money has been, federal money has been invested into this system.
Yeah.
And so this is a system that exists that they have to have, and that's
Yeah,
why
I
they,
get it.
have been using that network.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure we're gonna have much more
Yes.
discussion around this. I didn't mean to kind of open this discussion.
Because it's sort of an H91 and
Yeah,
et cetera, et cetera.
yeah, it ties it.
What's the number of the bill again?
Oh, no.
594.
590.
594.
Yeah, it
So-
ties into that definitely.
Yeah. It's like if we were building the system now, knowing
Now,
what we knew now,
exactly.
we wouldn't build it that way.
No,
Um,
right.
But I do understand that there are federal ties because some of the resources that go to these organizations come from the HUD money. And the HUD money doesn't even flow through the state
Right, it goes
budget.
directly.
It goes directly. And as we heard from Lily the other day, the state is actually a competitor to the two
That
continuums of care for HUD money. So
Yeah.
they also get some HUD money that then goes out to some of these same people as well. So and I'll be honest, we don't know. I mean, that's getting a big shakeup. I mean, we don't know what that HUD continuum of care stuff is going to look like as, whatever version of an interpretive memo we get or a NOFA, and the courts are going to decide something at some point in time. So
And I think that conversation across all of human services, maybe we should, as we see changes coming in from the feds in terms of our funding resources moving forward, I mean, is there a way to, it's such a large amount of agencies and, everyone that's involved with providing these human service supports to our
Yeah.
communities, like those funds are going to be strained coming up, and maybe we should be looking at how there's consolidation across, not just wherever,
not just.
not anyone in particular.
Yeah.
CF administers 12 to 1,500.
Yeah, right?
Think about the administrative.
Is that?
12 to
Yeah.
1,500 DCF. Yeah.
Well, look at the
Piece
two
of it.
positions being moved in BAA, two positions being moved to be able to administer grants,
Mhm.
right? I mean, it's part of it is hands-on, but
Which
it's.
a lot of it is required, but
Yeah.
again, and obviously we don't have all the details here, but I do think that there are opportunities that to maximize efficiencies and consolidate and reduce that number. And maybe it's not in our committee, maybe it's in GovOps with AOA and what they need to do to make it easier to get the money out the door. Maybe it's an ADS, so they reduce the number of requirements, but it is a systemic problem that is costing all of us.
Mhm. And,
Well,
money's not getting directly down to the people that
Right.
it's intended to get to.
And I would say that I think it's important for people to understand that there are choices that departments make. Okay, so we heard from the recovery centers, okay, we heard 3 different activities.
Hmm.
Okay, there is no reason that they have to have 3 separate grants for that. It can be 1 grant. But the vision here within state government is, well, this is the way we have done it. This is the way we're going to continue to do it. And yes, there might be different requirements with each sort of sub-program. And you can list a separate funding source for those within the grants. You can list multiple funding sources on grants. So it's frustrating to me that they automatically go to, we got to do a separate grant, because you don't have to do a separate grant. And you heard the Recovery Center say that they had that they were expecting to have an amendment to their base grant for at least one of those. I don't remember which one it was. So let's sort of like, come back around.
Sorry.
That's okay. Those are all things that
We'll
we
be
will,
talking about it in the future, no
the-
doubt about it.
well, I'm going to give us a sideline just for one brief moment. Again, the AAA's talked about it in their testimony, that, they came together for more efficiencies and they formed a different kind of organization. They previously just had it, basically an advocacy organization. This new organization is operational and advocacy. And, honestly, there are only 5 of them. One organization should be providing what I would call the administrative services. The payroll, the billing, the reports to Dale and, that kind of stuff. And maybe we'll see a bill. I don't know. I think there are opportunities, and we might want to start with something that's smaller and a little bit easier. But we'll see. So let's come back and let's kind of look at Ann's sort of organization and take the sort of what I would call sort of combination of technical and not meeting legislative intent of what ended up in the community process. So the first one being the residential care tier 1 providers. So can I ask if people have any questions about that, or if you need if I can provide any clarification about what that's all about? That's the one that is for $1,071,550. Anybody have any questions about that?
I do.
Yeah.
So what's the 45% you guys were talking about?
So Medicaid, these are all Medicaid services.
Yeah.
Okay, Medicaid is a combination state and federal program. The state provides what they call state match, and the feds provide the federal match. Okay, and roughly, I don't have the exact numbers, but roughly it's 45 state funds. For every dollar that's spent, it's 45 cents.
482,000.
Right, yes. So that's what we'd be spending in state dollars, not the $1 million. So the feds would match that because it's an allowable Medicaid expense. That's what it is.
Sorry.
So the difference is the federal money.
The difference is that, well, we need the state money and the federal money. But if you're looking at what it would cost the state in additional money, it's that 482.
So why are we putting in the other?
Because it's called expenditure authority. So in all of our budget documents, we have a $9 billion state budget. 2 billion of that is state funds. All the rest of it is federal.
Okay.
But we pass a budget for the full 9 billion. That's why we're doing it. You have to pass a budget for the full amount.
Okay.
Okay?
Even though it's not all out of our
Pocket.
pocket. Yeah.
The amount we're going
So
to.
then if
Yeah.
the federal doesn't pay for it, the taxpayers have to make it up.
No, this is it's a required thing. It's already an approved service. So it's already been approved by the feds.
Okay.
Okay?
So are they going to reimburse us?
It'll come out of their pocket. What happens, it's a
That's
long
what I
story.
want to know.
Yes.
So it comes
Yes.
from them and not
Yes.
us. Thanks.
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay. And that's, Brenda, that's for almost everything in Dale. Almost
Okay.
everything in Dale is like that, with the
Okay.
exception of VR or hireability. All of the stuff in traumatic brain injury, all of the stuff in choices for care, all of the stuff in developmental and intellectual disability. So all of that is Medicaid. So all falls under that same explanation we were talking about. Okay. Okay. All right. So can I see a show of hands of folks who are supportive of the tier one fix, that should be, that should have been in the budget, as we passed it. Okay? And people who do not support that. Okay, so the committee supports that. Okay, and the next one is with regard to the area agencies on aging. This was the 2% cost of living increase that we gave to all the Medicaid providers. And again, it was a missed calculation. It was an error. Just like the last one we just voted on, it was an error. And I'll pull it up here a second. It's $720,000, I think. Oh, no, it was a lesser amount than that.
Yeah.
Excuse me, just a minute. It was much less than that. Yeah.
140,000.
140, yeah,
904.
So that those people got the same raise as everybody
as
else.
everybody else, did, yeah. So yeah,
can talk.
yeah, you don't need to raise your hand.
So you're telling me maybe some nurses, aides and stuff didn't get their raise?
The people who work for the AAAs,
Doing
their
the case management.
case
service.
managers and so forth, that group of, all the other case managers and every other agents, community agencies, or nurses, whatever positions.
Whose mistake would that have been? The people giving us the information?
What we heard from Joint Fiscal this morning was that it was a joint error. That Joint Fiscal didn't notice that it wasn't there and the state didn't provide it. So it's a lesson for us that even as detail oriented as Joint Fiscal is, at things happen. And both of those, the first two, the one for the tier one, the residential care, and this one were both errors that happened essentially with Joint Fiscal. So, and the administration. Okay, anybody have any other questions about how that, again, this is Medicaid. So it's only roughly 45% that will be state funds. Okay, can I see by a show of hands, people who support that? Okay, and people who do not support that? Okay, thank you. So the committee supports that. I just want people to understand that what will be presented in our report, because this is a majority rule, that it will say the committee supports that, okay? Okay, and now let's look at the HOP,
Flexible funding pool.
flexible funding.
That was sort of if you will, an error of understanding what we would have intended versus how the department chose to implement. Is that the way to say it?
Yeah, I think that's, I'm gonna hold my tongue. That's what I'm gonna
I mean,
do.
we didn't put into our
I'm not gonna say what I wanna
budget.
say.
We didn't put a reduction in our
We
budget.
did not put a reduction.
We
in
did
our
not. We would have, if we thought it should be reduced, that would have been in the budget. We did not reduce them in the budget. But what happened is there was an other area of the budget where we did an increase. And what the department did is get the money for the increase by doing a reduction that we had not approved. That's,
So how does that happen?
how did it happen?
I don't know.
I guess we didn't give clear enough, and I don't, it's hard to say.
Like, who would have made that decision?
It would have been Dale saying, well, this is how we're gonna use the money that's.
No,
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Not Dale.
I knew it. I know where we are.
Yeah, okay.
So
I'm just trying to find the
be
exact
able to
number.
take it from their mistake.
Hmm?
If it's their mistake, why would we come to the taxpayer to pay it again? That's why I'm confused.
Yeah, I think that, I guess, I get why Ann is thinking about this in this category. When DCF was here and testifying on the budget, and they testified that the increase in the HOP was for shelter services. And you have to remember that in addition to this, they're asking for $2 million. The department is asking for $2 million.
Well, the governor's DAA recommend.
Right.
Right.
That's the department.
That's the department. The department, yeah,
I understand.
yeah, well, I'm
Yeah,
trying not to
It's for
confuse
me to
people.
know what department,
Right, right.
Yes.
because I don't know what department.
Right, the Department for Children and Families, so we increased the budget for HOP this year. Based upon the department's recommendation, the administration, the governor, all that's one thing, okay? So we said, okay, we agree. And they're coming back and saying, okay, but we need $2 million more. Because it costs more to do what we thought we were going to do. And we've added a few more beds. Okay, that's money is the same pot of money that we're talking about here. So, I mean, I think people should be clear that there's more than one decision. We're just talking about what community providers have come to us, and then we're going to switch, okay? Well, we will switch, and tomorrow we're going to talk about what the departments came and asked for, okay? So there's two different sources of requests, one from the departments, one from community providers, okay? And then we'll put them together and then we'll decide, okay, maybe no, maybe we can do this, maybe we can't do that, okay? And we're not making the ultimate decisions, we're just making recommendations. Okay, so that's what you should be clear on. We're not making a decision to approve something, we're making a recommendation to the Appropriations Committee, okay? So in HOP, I'm just trying to find the exact dollar amount because on my notes, which I am confused by.
I've got 20,000, 61,654,
Did that include the 453?
and 1,322,100.
141. Yeah, that's what I
Is
have.
that all added together?
That's all of them added together, I believe,
All
but
that is added together.
just from the community side, the community providers.
I don't know, I just wrote down the numbers.
So what confused me a little bit, and I will ask for clarification potentially from Amy Schellenberger here. What confused me a little bit is I wrote down another number for that Michael shared. That was a difference of 453,000.
So HHAB pulled the shelter providers and I pulled the caps, and the total number includes both.
So the 1,322,000,
Everybody.
that's everybody. Okay, all right, thank you. And that's a total of 14 providers, right? Yeah. 1,322,141. Okay. Okay. So this is for the direct financial assistance to individuals who are either homeless or at risk of homelessness. And it is the provision of things like rental assistance, assistance with landlords, first and last month, damage deposits, help moving if they need assistance to move. You know, we heard a variety of different things, but this is, and the money does not go to the individual, it goes to the vendor. So, you know, if I'm the landlord, the money goes to the landlord, it doesn't go to the person who is renting. So they wanted to be clear that the person themselves are not getting the money. And as Anna stated, this is not increasing what they had prior to FY25 last year. This is restoring the money that we believed was going to them. We did not authorize any cuts to existing service providers. Granted, because we don't have a law yet about emergency housing and shelter services, they can essentially do whatever they want to do. I mean, that's the face of it.
So they got the money but spent it another way?
The department got the money, but they spent it in a different way. Yes, that's exactly it, Brenda.
And they want to spend more in a different way.
No, the department is not asking for the HOP providers,
No, not for
No, no,
this.
no.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, don't confuse us. Don't confuse.
Yeah, don't confuse way back.
Yes. No, you summarized it exactly right, Brenda. that we gave the money to the department, they decided to spend it on something else.
Now, what department?
DCF,
DCF.
Yeah,
yes.
so they should be responsible. See, I'm getting all, okay.
But they don't have the money to just allocate out another $1 million. They get their money from us. That's, and
They spent it somewhere else, so it's not available.
gone.
yeah. And so, what the decision that we're making is whether or not we believe that, that they should have spent it someplace else. And I think we heard testimony, and we certainly, they did not provide testimony to us that they were going to spend it someplace else.
How can we stop this in the future? Because the taxpayer is getting double whammied.
They're being asked to spend another
plan.
1.3 million
Yeah.
because
So,
the department decided that they had different priorities.
And we, if we could stop it, we have to give more
specific,
explicit
yes.
directions if there's a concern that that could happen with money that's being allocated.
Which is exactly what we tried to do last year.
We need a policy around accountability when.
Yes.
Yes.
There you go. So we need a policy on accountability for funds.
Might
that
be a
are
bill coming
distributed.
to the floor. I like that.
Yeah.
No, I'll sign that one.
Hmm.
Because we can't afford to keep doing this. People are gonna be more homeless.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like it's a valuable service. I do agree with Ray about, is it the most efficient way? I'm not convinced of that.
But
But
I see that as a decision for next year.
that's a decision
Yeah,
for our
not
later
for today,
discussion
yeah.
on whatever that number is, 490,
494,
494,
594.
594.
I really should have made it 591.
591, I wouldn't have missed an opportunity.
Easier.
That would have been good. What are people's thoughts about this?
I have a procedural thought, and I know we're looking to separate this out in our discussion from discussion tomorrow with the department, but they're all HOP funds. So I sort of am viewing the totality of the HOP related requests.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you my personal opinion. I would say no to 1.322 million of their request
That's
and
That's right.
say yes to this.
That's what I'm doing.
my thinking.
Okay, so explain to me.
Okay, so the department has asked for 2 million
Okay,
in the same program.
same program.
Same program.
But the other part where they used
And,
this money, they want even more.
so you'll
So-
subtract this out?
That is my thought.
When we get there.
When we get there, that's
That's-
tomorrow's work.
But if I vote,
I'm less sure I.
but I have to vote now, right? Can
We have to vote.
This is not a formal
This
vote.
isn't a formal vote.
This is a straw vote for when we do our.
I'm for that.
Yeah, so you'll have an
So they're really
opportunity.
Paying for it.
Right, so they're really paying for it because, they're not gonna be happy about
I'm
it, but,
for that, because, well, yeah.
You can say you're for it contingent on tomorrow's decision, because this is a straw vote.
It's just a straw vote.
Yeah,
I
it's a straw.
can't say that,
Yeah.
but it's on camera.
yeah, that's fine.
Everything we've said so far is on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I sound like we're all thinking the same thing on this particular thing is you can't have your cake and eat it too. Okay,
You can't change the priorities mid-term without telling us when we were expecting it to be spent in a different way,
correct. I mean, we couldn't do it at home.
and they did that.
So I have a question
Yeah.
that I just don't understand yet. So in all of this, it sounds to me as if that no one's taken, from a department, no one has acknowledged that this request coming from these folks is even at play from their point of view. It's not even on the table. So we'll be we're as if we're learning information that they know, but we don't know that they know, or we're.
They know that they know.
They know. Yeah, but what
I know.
it just seems amazing to me that they're curiously, hoping that we won't kind of put the math together?
Then we won't notice.
Yeah, we won't notice or something?
I think that they, I shouldn't say what.
Well, we don't know. I'm not trying to
I'm not-
accuse or anything. It's just, it's an unusual set of missing math opportunities.
It's an unusual set of circumstances that presented themselves and, do I think they thought we would kind of put two and two together? Probably not, but, I think that, they probably believed that they were doing their best to live within the budget and to do the priorities that they felt were of higher priority. And at this point in time, they felt that the establishment of new shelter beds was a higher priority. And we agreed with the establishment of new shelter beds, but at the amount that they gave us in their budget request.
Yeah.
Not at an additional $1.3 million amount and an additional two on top of that.
That they're asking for.
Exactly.
Yeah. Tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, so, the idea on the table,
Okay,
that we'll mix a little bit of tomorrow with today,
okay.
is that we would, take this 1.3 million from the 2 million that the department requested.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure I'm ready to go there, but that's
I'm not
tomorrow.
either. Yeah.
Well, that's where you do want to go, tomorrow.
I want to
I'm
go
not-
tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I am, although it seems the majority maybe, but that's.
I'm with,
Well,
yeah.
So what if we don't even include,
You're not.
we know that
I'm
now.
not with
Now take that out and just vote
I'm
on what we have today.
I'm the double
I'm-
whammy. You don't.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe. I'm
That's
not
not
good.
you.
It's like I haven't made that decision and a lot of
Okay.
people have.
No, but thank you. You
Yeah.
always put things in perspective for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so, could I see by a show of hands, first off, does anybody else have any other questions about this recommendation?
I'm not ready to go until tomorrow.
Okay.
No, I wish we could.
So, this is just a show of hands to see to kind of see where we're going. And, so the recommendation would be to restore the 1.322 million, to the providers, there's 14 different providers who received these funds, in the past, and to restore them to their previous level. Tomorrow, we will entertain the question of whether this recommendation is actually deducted from the $2 million that the department has requested. So you'll get a chance to modify your vote on this as well, okay? Okay?
Mhm.
All right, so can I see a show of hands about that? Okay, and then Todd wants to wait till tomorrow. Okay. Okay, we made it through that sort of tier of group. Okay, the next tier of folks, just a minute, let me just check off. Here, done. It's triple A's. Different color pen.
You need a red one? He's-
I've got one, yeah. I'll start.
Yeah, the next two had been my equivocal ones versus the last two where I thought, no, that's really new.
Okay,
So.
all right. Okay. All right, I'm gonna say I'm gonna say, let's talk about the recovery centers. So the recovery centers, that was the Susie Walker and Danielle and Lila. Okay,
That's. Am I missing it?
420,000.
No, I don't have
Oh, you've
that.
got an old,
I have an old number.
no, you have an old.
Oh, I have an old. All of that.
it's on
Oh,
our,
you
it's
printed
on our
yours out.
website, it's on our website.
Yeah, and I didn't print it off.
Yeah, it's on our
Okay.
website under Susie Walker. There, the
Susie
6 recovery organizations
Don't worry.
are requesting $420,000 in one-time funding.
I mean, I heard it, I just don't have the right one here. Okay.
And that would go to the Turning Point in Springfield, Journey to Recovery. Where is Journey to Recovery? Anybody know?
Northeast Kingdom.
Northeast Kingdom. Yeah, that's hers up there. Yeah, sorry. Yep. Chittenden County, Addison County, Bennington, and Wyndham County. So I'm not sure if it's, relevant or not, but so one of the issues that was created is because the Department of Health just gave a flat rate to all the recovery centers. Which I'm sure made it easier for them, but the recovery centers had given them a recommendation with that same 800,000 that we appropriated from the opioid settlement fund, and they had all agreed about how to distribute it among themselves. The department said, no, we're just going to do $50,000 to every recovery center. So that created sort of winners and losers of people who were budgeting in a different way. So they are requesting that these 6 organizations receive a total of $420,000 to is essentially to essentially get them back to what they thought that they were going to get as their share of the $800,000, I guess is a way to put it.
Is that from the state or the opioid fund?
Well, that's a very good question. That's a very good question, because the 800,000 that we gave them was from the opioid special fund. Yeah. So that's an open question, Todd.
Gotta find out. Yeah. Or we know.
Yeah. I mean, there's money in there, but that would mean it would reduce whatever it is that we have for everybody else. Yeah.
So my question is, I'm not quite sure I understand. $800,000 didn't go just to these 6 organizations. It must have gone to many more.
It went to all of them.
Otherwise they couldn't get 50.
Right. No, it went to all of them.
And these 6 feel or have determined that they were slighted a certain amount in their expectation.
In terms of what the whole group had
Yeah.
recommended.
Okay,
Yeah.
based on the recommendations. So this is sort of right sizing all of that in a way. Yeah.
To me, it seems like this is more of an opportunity to refine the process going forward, to be honest with you.
Right, but the ones who, if you see it in terms of some got more than what their group recommendation was and some got less.
That's why they were unanimous in their decision to make this request.
Yeah, because those who got more aren't saying, well,
Take it
we'll
away.
give that to the ones who are short. Now
Right.
that I'm understanding it better.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's where my brain's going.
yeah, right.
Well, and they can't really, because the department made the decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. They can't give the money back.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
I mean, and they can't even write a check to a sister agency because they're on the hook for reporting about how that money was spent,
It's
so.
just the circumstance that it puts us in,
Yeah.
the decision making, it forces our hand in a certain way. Yeah.
So, I think, Doug, what you said is an important feature of this, and what we're finding is through this appropriations process that we're needing to be more and more specific about, in collaboration with the Recovery Partners of Vermont to determine an allocation. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because it doesn't, part of this, that's why I wasn't sure, is it in the first one or is it in,
Right.
and then the second one or the third one, but, they did request 1.6 million. We made a decision to fund it at 800,000. So, because there wasn't an agreement reached with the department, it's not really on us. We've made that decision.
Right.
Yeah.
I know what I want to vote on this, but I'm going to, other
No, well,
conversations.
Yeah, I mean, this is clarifying for me in some way, because what I was hearing on it was that they felt they needed it because of some lost federal funds and increased demand, but that's really I was thinking of it as the whole group having that pressure, and it makes it harder for me in terms of. sort of on the fence, but
Yeah, I'm
I don't know.
comfortable with it, like looking forward and thinking
Yeah.
about how we tighten this process.
Right, and
how we
not-
tighten some of like the opioid advisory committee when we look at that bill and what our recommendations on our specifics.
and not adding
instructions
more
are,
in
and
budget
not
adjustment.
adding more. Cause like the point has been made, but it's not like the winners are gonna end up like giving up some of that
Right,
funding. So
right.
we're just having to make up
More than what
more
we
money
agreed
for-
on last
exactly,
year.
for disagreement or miscommunication between the recovery centers and the administration.
Mhm.
It feels like.
But in doing that, we're also leaving holes in these communities. I mean, I'm very,
Yeah.
you know, I've met with, you know, my own Turning Point, Daniel Wallace,
Yeah.
my local one. You know, these were based on data about, you know, these were complex conversations among their groups about how many they're serving, how many people they're seeing, what it costs to do business in their area. And so now we have multiple centers around Vermont where they're feeling a hole in their budgets, in their capacity to do this really important work. So, you know, they did all of this in good faith, and I get like, you know, it wasn't our fault, but we now have 6 communities in Vermont at this time when we are facing a crisis of people experiencing substance use, which is not just those people, it extends out. We all feel the effects of that. And so I get that this is, you know, on the department for changing and, you know, kind of getting away from our intent a little bit. And yes, we can do better. But this is also the chance for us to react to new information. And they have been able, you know, there has been loss of federal funds and, you know, those agencies who got more than they really needed can better weather those losses. And so not only did these agencies not get what they thought they were going to get, they're handling pressure. So I am in support of this just because I know how this is impacting my community. And I also know the effects it will have on our future budgets and the budget we're about to work on if there is a gap in funding and a gap in services for these people.
Yeah, I hear that, Jubilee. I think what I'd like to say is that we're looking at 2 or 3 different circumstances where there's just been some sort of fuddy-duddy thing that happened. And we're sort of stepping in to recommend to make the situation okay. And although we're kind of powerless, we can't do anything specifically right now.
Yeah.
It's a
I'm
tough
very
one.
trying to-
Yeah.
Can we put the baby? They're asking to go to the 6.
I was wondering how we even vote, we don't know where the money's coming from.
Well,
That part, I really don't like, I wanna know where the money's coming from.
that's a good point.
I mean, we can't, can
Show
we
me
at
the
this
money,
point?
okay?
Can we
So
at this? Sorry.
So my recommendation would be because the 800,000 came from the opioid settlement fund, that any money that we, if we decide to recommend, that we would recommend that it come from. the
That it
state
comes from
source.
the. Okay.
I really don't want to.
Budget.
No, it would be our recommendation.
It'll be a recommendation, it wouldn't come from the general budget.
It would be our string attached when we tell appropriations that we support doing this, if we support doing it, if it comes from the opioid settlement fund.
And we do.
I hear where you're coming from. I hear where you're coming from.
Yeah. And it helps people.
But, you know, that is going to take from some other
Yeah.
program that we would like to fund through the opioid settlement fund.
So this year.
Not this year.
There's millions. I mean, that's.
Not exactly.
No, for next year.
Declining, but
But it would take it out from what we're gonna do.
it's still for the right
Next year.
purpose.
I think I've sort of previewed where I'm coming at this, but
He's not here.
this is a preview of what we're going to have to address in the fiscal year 27 budget of tough decisions.
Right, and we're
And
taking, right now, sorry.
So while I wish things were different for these organizations, everyone who's spoken to us is doing good work, in my view, but we can't fund it all. So I would be voting against this one.
No,
Yeah. Sorry, Ann was talking next.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just, yeah, I can't remember. It was not.
Okay.
critical. It was in reference to.
Just
what
building
Doug was
on
saying.
that,
Oh,
yeah.
right. No, I was just talking about, anything that we add to this budget is likely to be more we have to maybe not be able to do next year. And it was, I thought it was the same way with the opiates fund. It's not doing less in this year's, but it would mean it's being taken away from next year's. Where we have recommendations that we have to look, that have already spent what they're recommending should be spent in terms of their planning of what they're asking. So I guess.
have to adjust.
I'm
The other-
leaning towards not supporting it.
The other thing is, I wish Eric were here, because didn't he say to us that there are several amounts that haven't gone out of that settlement? They're just not even dealt with yet. So here we are potentially sending this off to this, out of this fund, and it might not even show up for another year.
Well, we're gonna have to deal with that separately.
Yeah, I
I
realize that.
agree with you. It's still obligated out of the
Yeah,
fund, so.
yes, I
it's
understand.
Obligated.
Just to backtrack one step too, so the Vermont Department of Health has the prevention fund as well, and I think that's actually where this $800,000 is coming from, but versus the opioid.
No, we, I think this was one of the ones that we recommended to come from the prevention fund, but they said no. Or one of the ones that we had recommended a couple of different things to come out of the prevention fund, and they said no.
Okay.
It's just really,
So it's coming out of the opioid.
just the beginning, just at the beginning.
It's not coming out of the opioid settlement fund? Where's it coming from?
The $800,000 is in the prevention.
It did end up out of the prevention fund. Give her that big gold star.
Really, which one of those stars do you want?
Are you sure about that?
You can verify, but I'm sure about that. Yeah, that last year in fiscal year 26, the 800,000 for centers was from the prevention fund, and the only funding from opioid funds was all for residences.
The only reason I'm asking is because I remember us recommending that happen, and I didn't think that they followed our recommendation on that.
Can you remind me what the money for the?
Okay, so the prevention fund is funded by I don't know what the official term is, but it's a fee that manufacturers of opioids
Oh, yes.
pay to the state. For every unit that's sold, there's a fee that's tacked onto it, and the state gets that. And the money is then, distributed to community providers, for
Prevention efforts.
doing prevention efforts.
Narcan.
Yeah, Narcan, it funds the distribution of Narcan and, yeah,
Well.
yeah. So,
Against this too.
So Todd, if we'll have to double check that, just want to make sure, but if something ends up getting recommended, I would recommend that it come from the same place that we funded it out of. So thank you for bringing that up.
I'm looking through 218 as passed, and I'm not seeing it in there. So I think I'm confirming what's it.
Oh,
So
Out of prevention.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if it's at French, that's where it's.
Not-
I'm not seeing
It's
any,
not out of the opioids.
I'm not seeing the opioid settlement as passed.
Okay.
Page 218.
Okay. Okay, well, I don't feel a consensus. Can I hear some other opinions about this? I'm feeling, some
mix.
mixed viewpoints on this.
But they can come apply for
Next year.
next year through the opiate fund.
Right, this is to fill in the rest of this year.
Okay, so,
Other folks or somebody want to put a proposal on the table? Is that, because I've heard a proposal to split the baby.
Well, that was conversation.
No,
I
not a serious proposal.
so,
Okay, so, well, all right, so then I'm gonna call for a show of hands of people who would want to recommend the full amount of, I wrote it down.
80,
How much?
420,000.
420, yes, 420.
480.
People who would want to recommend 420,000, and the recommendation would be that it would come out of the prevention fund because that's apparently where it was funded from. So people who are in favor of recommending 420,000 out of the prevention fund.
Out of opiate settlement.
No.
right?
No, out of,
It's prevention.
Prevention.
it's out of another federal fund.
No, out of the opiate.
Okay. Well, whatever you want to vote.
So hard.
1, 2,
It is.
3, 4. Okay.
It is hard.
So, is there a proposal to fund $210,000, half of that amount out of that same source of funding, which is, credit, it's not state funds.
It's not general.
It's not general.
General fund.
No,
No.
so it would be for half of their request out of the money that the drug manufacturers send to us. So that would be $210,000.
Yeah, all right.
We can go
Split the
more than
baby.
once, right?
Also.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because if your 400 went down, you can vote for
3,
200.
4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's a majority.
Yes.
Okay, so our recommendation would be for 210,000. I'm on the wrong page. Yeah, no, I'm writing on both, which is confusing. I'm doing it.
The drug, it's not general fund. It's,
And it's, okay, it comes from.
Not general fund.
and we'll specifically in our,
Okay.
we'll point that out in
So
our
funny
recommend.
about
It's the
that.
same money. Yeah,
Okay,
it's not out of.
it's from like a drug company.
Yes.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I'm all for recovery.
Okay. Okay, then,
Okay.
next one, under that.
That I couldn't make up my mind category. There were those two.
Right, and I say too.
Yeah, I don't think legal aid really does fall into that category
No,
for me,
I-
to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it really, you're
It's,
right.
it's new money.
It is new money. It's not backfilling. It is a new request. It is based on new needs, and that's why I had that kind of center category,
Yeah.
but it's not. It is for new, it's for 2 new positions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is this?
About.
I don't think they.
They
can
don't
do
seem
that.
new to me, but.
No, it's new attorneys.
Okay, so, excuse me, just a moment. So now we will take up the legal aid.
We'll start.
About 5, 6 minutes, but so just to be clear, I just want people to be clear that the bulk of that loss in staff was due to COVID era money that we all know, and they did, and that she acknowledged was one-time money, was not going to last. They were hoping for that to be backfilled. Last year, we had several requests to backfill the ERAP program, and we declined to backfill the ERAP program. We made that decision as a body. So I just want to be clear who, it was a very sad story that we heard. But I just want to be clear that it was also based primarily in terms of the loss of funds on what was something that we knew was going to happen. However, they have not received, I will acknowledge, they have not received any increases. And I guarantee you, when we get the budget from the administration, it'll be decreased again.
No, but right, but that's where the debate, I think that's where the debate does need to happen. And I was somebody who was like writing to my constituents and all about that, is about all the COVID money. It's going to make us all think we need to continue it when it's special and separate. And this is going to be really hard because it's harder to take away than to not give. And we are giving all this, and we're going to have to really, deal with the loss of it, not by backfilling it. And I still feel that way, I guess. So to make an exception here, I would have a problem with that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I extremely value the services of Vermont Legal Aid. I worked with them for a long time, the disability law project in particular. And this is actually 2 legal assistance services. So it's Vermont Legal Assistance or whatever it's called. It used to be called something else. Ed Paquin used to run it. That's all I remember. And now it's the other guy. But it does limit the amount of assistance. So when we all refer people to Vermont Legal Aid, we need to understand that, they most likely will not be able to take up an individual case. I mean, that's the, when they said high impact cases, what they're talking about is things that are going to impact multiple people or a whole population.
In that category of civil, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there someone who, sorry, I think you had your hand up.
Well, just trying to wrap my head around
Yeah.
like this COVA era funding that was expectedly lost. So based on the testimony, I see that portion, but I also see, you know, this stream of funding that has existed for the past 19 years for HUD specifically. So that's
a loss of federal funds, which is I think the part that you were referencing about.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's like why I think this is extremely relevant. This just happened, you know, in the BAA, and mid, you know, at the budget, and then that happened, and now.
Thank you, now you're reminding, I mean, that was part of why I saw it as part of
Versus a
that.
COVID thing, which is absolutely, I totally agree, you know, we're not here to fill that gap for COVID issues, but this is like a 2 decades long issue that just barely ended, and we have to adjust accordingly, I think. Especially because of the ripple effect of impact, especially on our court system, our judiciary, and it's like,
That was 1.275 million, I think.
from HUD, yeah.
3/4 of it was ERAP, but that's still a quarter of that funding was funding they weren't anticipating losing and lost very suddenly. Yeah.
How much is the ask it?
I'm going to go back.
I put mine
It
away.
was 235,000 due to inflation,
It was-
300,000 for 2 staff attorneys, and 100,000 for the helpline.
But it's not, but the amount of the losses was,
1.275 million for the HUD-related loss.
the HUD-related loss was.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was
So
significant.
the total of what they're asking is less than
Oh, yeah.
what they lost from HUD.
Yeah.
I had not laid out the math.
Yeah, I mean, I expected them to request more. They really pared down to the essential need, I think, in their request.
And that was funds they lost, HUD funds they lost in January. They said they lost the HUD funds in January, and the ERAP funds came to an end as of July or June, July,
So January of last year.
January 2025.
Oh.
As my notes indicate, that's when they lost that funding.
Yeah.
So whether that was, I don't know under which administration, which policy, that timing makes it difficult to.
No, but it does mean that the discussion and the loss was like
Could have been part-
last year's budget discussion where
Yeah.
it was not included in the budget.
So I guess I am understanding what they identified as their loss. I see their request as 635,000.
Yeah.
That's what they're requesting.
But they had
That's
broken
what I
it into
have.
the 3 buckets. They attributed 235 to the lack of the inflationary COLAs, if you will.
Yeah,
Right,
we've made that decision. We didn't do it last year.
right.
300,000, they said it was related to the staff attorneys and 100,000 for the helpline.
Yes.
Yeah.
I might make a proposal.
The lots of federal funds was confusing me
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
because it is kind of irrelevant at this point in time. It happened prior to
It
the
happened
last.
prior, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
It's not, they may lose more. I'm not, they may lose more. I mean, I think that's important to understand. So, are you entertaining, putting something on the table?
For consideration whether we do 1 staff attorney, so presumably that's 150, and the helpline. I was distressed by the fact that Vermonters are not even getting a call back for weeks.
My leg.
It's a little bit tough about beefing up the helpline when there isn't help to give them, but at least people will get some direction. They'll get a response. They won't be waiting weeks to see if that's where their salvation will come from. They'll learn sooner whether it is or it isn't. So that would be a $250,000 proposal, I guess, is the way I see it, for a helpline and 1 attorney.
I don't want to rush people in their thinking about this. So, yeah, we can, why don't we, we're going to pick this up again. And actually, floor is supposed to be pretty short, so we're going to come back up to committee. Yeah, so, Doug, will you tell Brenda that since she sits right in front of you? So Lori, we can